the story of Dhul Qarnayn and the story of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. What is Dhul Qarnayn and what is the story of Ya'juj and Ma'juj? So Ya'juj and Ma'juj is a story of it part in the past, and there is another chapter will be in the future. So we are in the middle. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in Surah, mentioned their story in Surah Al-Kahf. What amazing about Surah Al-Kahf, if some of you don't know about it, it contains some stories that been lost in time. In the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, nobody knows about these stories. Nobody knows about Dhul Qarnayn, nobody knows about Ashab al-Kahf, nobody knows about the Ya'juj and Ma'juj. These are the stories that been lost by time. All of the people who knows about these stories, some residual of knowledge, it has some of the Jew have it. So it's just some kind of information, that sometimes the story was lost by time. So some of the Jews, they know in Medina, they know some of these stories, or they know part of it, not all of it. It's a residual of some of the knowledge that's been in the past, from the Torah and Talmud. So what happens that some of them, they came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and trying to challenge him and ask him, if you are a prophet, these stories they know. Nobody knows about these. These stories are lost. Nobody knows about Ashab al-Kahf anymore. But they know about it. It is a secret, some kind of secret knowledge that it passed from generation to generation. So they put a challenge for him. Tell us about the people of Kahf. Tell us about Dhul Qarnayn. Tell us about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So Surah Al-Kahf, most of it came an answer. The Prophet ﷺ did not answer immediately, because he's a prophet, he's a messenger, and it always there is something that he does not know until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him. So the Surah Al-Kahf came as an answer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him the details that is, there are two things in each story. One, what they know, and what else that they don't know. To show them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what they know, knows about their information. When they asked the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they told him, tell us about Ashab al-Kahf. But they did not share with him what they know about Ashab al-Kahf. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to them what they know in their hearts. In the same time, He added to them what they missing. The part of the puzzle or the part of the story that they are missing. So it was a miracle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Surah Al-Kahf. Today we read it is regular, something like it's one part of the Quran, and we don't know the story about it, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala silenced those people who was challenging the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from time to time. If you are really a prophet, tell us about this story or that, whatever they know. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered them their challenge that He silenced them completely. There is nothing that they can do. He told them what they're in their heart, the knowledge that they keep it secret. In the same time, He added to them what they missed from that story. So one of these stories is the story of Dhul Qarnayn. That's why we don't know which person exactly Dhul Qarnayn, because this is the part of the history that we don't have any evidences about. Not all the story are being recorded. When you speak with a historian, he will tell you that those people came in this time, those people like that. There is a lot being lost. Like example, why the historian, they don't have much stories about Muslims? It's very simple. If you look what we know about the pharaohs, what we know about Egypt, they dig in one of these graves or under the pyramid, they will find a skeleton of people with some artifacts. The cup that he used to drink in it, and they found some of his clothes, some of his food. They found honey inside a jar of honey under the pyramid. Why? Because the Egyptians in that time, they believed that this will be the second house of their pharaoh after death. So they bury with him his treasures, his tools, his clothes, some of his food. So they bury it with him in the grave. So the historian, when they go, they dig the grave, they took all this and they took information from it. When the carvings on the cup, it gives them a lot of information. The dating, they will put this food or whatever clothes that they found, any fabrics or something, they put it under. They know how old this fabric was, so they know when he was buried. And sometimes they bury with him some books. It's not books, it's some clay tablets or something like that, telling about his story. So that was the pharaoh. What about the Muslims? We don't believe in that. When we bury a Muslim person, we just cover him in kafan and put him in a grave. We don't put signs. We don't bury with him books or records of his life. We don't bury with that person any kind of the artifacts that he was using during his life. We don't bury the tools. We don't bury his cap or anything like that. So that's why you find most of the stories of the ancient prophets and good people, even the Jew and the nations that Jew, Christian, because they were following, most of it is the same as we do. They bury their dead like we do today. So if the historian go to a village of an old Jew in that time, or an old Christian, what they will find? Maybe they will find some skeletons, but nothing else. So where they got it from the information? They have no information about how they were living. So that's why there is no much information we have about Dhul Qarnayn, because he was a believer. We have a lot of information about Iskandar the Macedonians, Iskandar. So we have a lot of information. Because they put on a clay his story. That's most of the historians say it could be the Iskandar, the Macedonians. He is the one who is the Qarnayn. This person, he went out from Macedonia in Italy today. He went out from Macedonia. He was a general. He was a soldier, an officer. And then he had his army. He showed that he's capable to lead. And then he started to control Macedonia. From Macedonia, he took an army. And he started to conquer the countries around Macedonia, around Italy. So he went in Europe, and he went in Egypt. He took charge of Egypt. He conquered all Egypt. From Egypt, he went to Middle East, to Syria, Lebanon, and to what is today Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine. He conquered them. He went east to Iraq. He went east more to Persia, and he died in Persia. So he reached, I think, close to what we know today is Afghanistan. So he went all that way. So he conquered all these countries. So if you go to Morocco, by the Atlantic Ocean, he take that land until we go east. So all the old world, what they call it the old world, that's before they found Americans and America, before they know where Australia is. Most of the world was there. It's only China that he could not reach it in his time. So they said that he went east and he went west and he went north, he went south. So he conquered most of the nations that was known in his time. That's why you find many Muslims, if you read in the Tafseer, they say maybe he's the Iskandar, the Macedonian. He is the one who is the Dhul Qarnayn. What Allah SWT told us about Dhul Qarnayn, the facts that we know, is the person who was believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was not a prophet, he was not a messenger, He was a military leader. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the power, the knowledge, and the power to lead, that he conquered to the east until there is no more east, until he reached the sea. Where exactly, which sea that we are talking about? Is it an ocean? Is it the Arabic Sea, or is it the Indian Ocean? We don't know. East. And he went west until he found water. There is nothing except that. He reached the point where there is only water. That means the other ocean, or maybe another sea. And he went north and he went south. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the power to conquer a lot. And he was a believer in the same time. That's why we say Macedonia, the Iskandar is not the one, because Macedonia, Iskandar was not a believer. He was atheist. He was worshipping idols in his time. When he went to Persia, even in Persia there is no Muslims in that time. And when he conquered Persia, he started to put on their clothes, and he took their traditions, and he died in there. And here there is no descendant from him. After him, he didn't have a male descendant, or nobody. So his kingdom started to decay a little after a little. But we know a lot about his life, about his wars. We know a lot about him. So the new scholars, the new Muslims, they said that mostly Dhul Qarnayn is another person who we think that he was a believer, and that was before Iskandar. His name is Cyrus the Great. Cyrus the Great is one of the kings of Persia. Persia have at least 3 or 4 dynasties that they ruled Persia in the old times, and they conquered. So this Cyrus the Great, he conquered almost the same area that Iskandar the Macedonians conquered, and maybe a little bit more, because he went over to the north. He went close to Moscow today. Not only Afghanistan. He conquered Afghanistan, and he went north until he got closer to Moscow today, in Russia. And in the east, he went to India. He conquered parts of India. In the south, he was in Persia. He went to the sea, close to the sea, the Indian Ocean. Yeah, they call it the Indian Ocean, I think. And to the west, he conquered the opposite. He took Iraq, Middle East, and then Egypt, and when reached even to Tunisia and Morocco today. And he conquered north. So he took a lot of lands, and he was a believer. He was one. They mentioned that he was worshipping the God of the truth, and the God of the truth. That one God. That's what we know. So some of the stories will be, scrambled a little bit by time. So they mentioned that he was worshipping one God only, and they call him the God of the truth, and the one who's so he liked the people who is truthful, and he hated the people who's liars, or something like that. So we think that he was a believer in some kind of one of the prophet and messenger in his time. So, I'm sorry that is maybe I went with you a lot in some detours. So that is Dhul Qarnayn. Dhul Qarnayn, he reached a point. He reached between 2 mountains, and there is a passage between 2 mountains. Behind these 2 mountains, after that passage, there is Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Ya'juj and Ma'juj are, what we know about them, they are humans, but they were a messing people, that they have no knowledge, they don't speak language, and something like that. They live primitive life, but in the same time they always go out, cross that passage between the mountains, go to whatever countries or villages, and they pillage there and steal and kill and took their stuff and go back where they are. So the people were suffering from them a lot. And there is no way to teach them or tell them or, try to civilize them. So when Dhul Qarnayn reached that point, the people of that area, they came to him, asked him for help. Please help us to make something that barrier between us. Close this passage between the two mountains. So he used, today is very normal, that today in the chemistry is very normal. He make some kind of he blocked that passage with a lot of pieces of iron. He asked them, his soldier, and with those people, bring me Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-hadid. So they in the beginning they asked him to make a barrier and we will pay you for it. He said, no, I don't need any pay. I need you to help me doing it. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me is more than enough. I don't need any payment from you. So bring me pieces of iron. So they pile a big pile of iron pieces. Then they put fire on it until it became red hot. And then they pour over it copper. They pour copper over, melting copper over that pieces of iron, hot iron. So it became bonded in one piece. Today is very normal. Any person who's working with metals or working in chemistry is normal. But this knowledge in that time, we are talking about thousands of years. Nobody knows how to make that block of metals that you cannot break it with iron, you cannot break it with copper. It became stronger than any of the metals that been known in that time. So that was sealed, and he told them part of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him as a vision or something like. He told them that this block or this passage will be closed until before the day of judgment. They will be released. And the Prophet Muhammad told us in his time that Allahu Akbar, he was sleeping and he woke up and he said, there's a part like this. He pointed with his hand. I don't know exactly what he pointed with his fingers. That part of that block of the passage was open. And there is another narration that they cannot break that barrier because they don't say Inshallah. And there is one narration that one day one of them, he will tell that tomorrow we will come back and try to dig it or broke it. Inshallah, then it will be broke for them. They will be able to broke it. That will be before the day of judgment. So the question is where they are. The normal questions that where they are and why we cannot find them on earth today. And how come that they are still living or they are dead, the same people or the descendants of them? And what will happen in the day before the day of judgment is one of the signs of the Sa'ah, one of the ayat al-Sa'ah or alamat al-Sa'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will release them, and when they will release them, no one will be able to face them. They will be really a huge amount of people that nobody can stand in front of them. And they are not civilized people that they will be normal people. No, they will be eating everything and drinking everything. So let me give you an example. Most of the scholars today, they said maybe they are underground. They are living somewhere underground. That's why we cannot find them. In one way or another, they are hiding from us. That we cannot find this block of that passage. We don't know where these two mountains are. And I will give you one example. I remember about 2017 maybe or 18, there was an Olympic Park here next to us. There was a slide, and one of the mountains in Olympic Park there was a slide because of the rain. There was part of the mountain slide where there is like 25 houses was destroyed and something like that. So that happened like in I think it's 2017 or 2018. You can just Google it, what happened in the slide in Olympic Park, and you'll find the pictures before and after. You'll find that part of that mountain is just a slide because of the rain, and so a chunk of that mountain disappeared. It became down and became mud with the water, and it went down. So that part of mountain does not exist anymore in that area. So like 27 houses was destroyed because they were building over that part of the mountain. So that happened like 5 or 4 years ago. If you look at the pictures, it's 2 days difference. A picture before the slide, a picture after the slide, you cannot recognize that area. So if you go in an airplane today, you will never think that before 3-4 years there was houses over there. Another example, they mention always about a volcano explosion. They call it Krakatau, I think Krakatau Island. It was there was an island in the Indian Ocean, not Indian Ocean, it's the Pacific Ocean. Yes, the Pacific Ocean. There was an island. It contains 3 parts, in this big island, and suddenly a volcano erupted, and that volcano was so huge that the 3 parts of this island was destroyed completely. It's disappeared. Right now, it's just a sea. It not exist anymore. And it caused a lot. That eruption was in the 19th century, the beginning of the 19th century. So it's normal if that 2 mountains and with that block of iron, it will not stay like it is in the time thousands of years ago. If you go to anywhere in the world, you'll find that when they found the pyramids, they had to dig a lot of sand to find the pyramid that you are seeing today. When they found it in the beginning, they found only the heads of the high pieces of the pyramids. They took a lot of sand away, and the pyramids was built like about 5,000 years ago, so not much more, about 5,000 years ago it was built, and it was built over the Nile. Today you have to go by the car 30 minutes to see the Nile. Between the Nile and between the pyramids there is about 30 minutes ride in the car. Why? It's not the pyramid was moved, but the Nile was moved. The Nile keep moving all the time. If you keep any one of these rivers after 1,000 years, you'll find that the passage of the river changed. So how come that anyone will imagine that we will find it today, after these thousands of years, somebody will say, why don't we go in an airplane and we try to find these 2 mountains and that passage that been blocked by iron and copper? Of course it will be buried under tons and tons and tons, maybe thousands of tons of dirt and anything, any kind of things that there is no way that you can dig it or find it today. Even if we know, somebody will tell us it's here, you cannot find it that easy. You have to dig for it because it's old. It's not something new. Without Allah SWT told us about it, no one will think about its existence. So it's normal that we don't find it today. We don't find some things that been built, a house built like 1,000 years ago. You cannot find it. I know that about the ancient villages. You have to dig and dig. They go 20 meters underground, and then they will find some of the remnants of whatever it was. And they are digging like 2,000 years ago only. or sometimes couple of hundreds of years, if you go to some places, it will be buried. If you go now today to Saudi Arabia or go to Dubai or UAE, there's many highways. It will be buried in 2-3 days. After one stone, you go to the highway, you find it buried with sand. You cannot find your way until they clean it out. So I'm sorry to, but just to give you an example that the erosions and the time have its effect on earth. That is not easy that we can find this place, but we believe it exists, and we believe that Ya'juj and Ma'juj exist, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about, even if we cannot find them today, they will come out. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all. We will never see them. Not us, not because we know that part of the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there will be very few Muslims when the time comes when they come out, and they will not be able to harm Muslims. They will harm other nations, but the Muslims will be saved from Ya'juj or Ma'juj. That's what the Prophet ﷺ told us. The Muslims, they will go to Mecca and Medina, and those Ya'juj Ma'juj, they will not reach the Muslims. And the Muslims, they will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the protection, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy those Ya'juj Ma'juj by some ants that it will kill them. No human will be able to face them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent on them just ants that will kill them, all of them in the same time.